Today I want to talk about the M3 iPad Air because if you're on the market for a new mid-range iPad, this should not be the one you should get. Let me explain. So what's my problem with this iPad? Is it a horrible, unusable product? Not really, it's a solid tablet, but it just does nothing special compared to the older M2 and even the M1 iPad Air that are considerably cheaper. Take for example the design. You really can't tell this apart from the M2 and M1 iPad Air models for the most part. And what's funny is that the M1 iPad Air in the first place looks identical to the iPad Air 4, which looks identical to the 2018 iPad Pro. So yeah, Apple's been reusing the same design again and again and again. But I can't blame Apple for doing this because it's a practical design that works. The flat edges are easy to grip onto and of course helps accommodate the Apple Pencil, and it would be nice if the bezels were thinner, but ultimately they serve a purpose. You can still place your finger somewhere when using the iPad. The display also similarly has no upgrades over the M2 and M1 iPad Air, but it does the job, guys. It's 10.9 inches LCD, has a resolution of 2360 by 1640 with 500 nits of brightness. It's also laminated and has P3 support, True Tone, and an anti-reflective coating. Now I know some techies want that bus-free smooth 120Hz the pros offer on the iPad Air, but I'll be honest guys, iPadOS is fluid enough where I rarely notice the lack of 120Hz. Brightness is also completely fine for indoor usage, and the Apple Pencil experience is unaffected by the lack of 120Hz. It's a laminated panel of course, so it's still much better to jot things down on this compared to the base iPads. You know what else would be better for me? If you subscribe to the channel, of course. Haha, what a horrible segue, but I'm gonna stick to it. I would greatly appreciate it. It would bring you the latest commentary about the world of Apple right to subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. Join the Surround By gang now. Anyway, let's now move on to accessories. This supports the Magic Keyboard, which Apple just refreshed with the function row, and it's a must-have for anyone wanting the iPad to be a laptop replacement. I know some might be put off by the retail price, but do remember you can go for the older Magic Keyboards without the function row that can be found for less, which the M3 iPad Air supports. I've seen it for as low as $100 from third parties, which is an incredible price for how good this keyboard is. Though do remember the M2 and even the M1 also support the same keyboards. Pencil-wise, this supports the Apple Pencil Pro and USB-C Pencil, just like the M2 iPad Air. I'm sure you can see there's a recurring theme here, but anyway, the pencil's great because not only is it useful for art and note-taking, but also video editors might appreciate this for more precise edits, and Apple themselves have shown how Final Cut has been optimized on the iPad to better work with the pencil. Performance-wise, we have the M3 in here with 8GB of RAM, and despite this chipset originally debuting in 2023, it's still a perfectly capable chipset and gives you access to pro apps, and Final Cut runs flawlessly for my edits, so it should be fine for most creatives too and the apps they use. But I will mention here again that the older M2 and M1 iPad Air also handles these apps just as fine, and if you're a student or a regular consumer considering this iPad, you might be better off saving your cash and going with an older non-M series iPad. The M3, M2 and M1 really only make sense for creatives, and if you don't take advantage of it, it's going to be very similar to older iPads in terms of regular usage. Anyway, because there's so much headroom here, you should be sorted when it comes to software support. Of course, I can't know for sure how long the M3 iPad Air is going to be supported, but considering how good the M3 still is, I could see this getting around 6 to 7 years of updates. And since it's an M series chipset, it's likely this iPad will continue getting all iPadOS features for a little while, since remember right now, non-M series iPads like the base iPad do miss out on Stage Manager, Final Cut, and Apple Intelligence support. Battery life is also solid, however I will say it's worse in my experience compared to other iPads, specifically the base iPads. I'm not exactly sure why, maybe it's the M3 using a little more power, but for most people's needs, this iPad should be fine endurance-wise. Now another plus with the iPad Air is the Type-C port. While this does not offer Thunderbolt speeds, it is still much faster than the A16 iPad, with data transfers up to 10 gigabits per second, so transfer speed should be completely fine, and it does also support displays up to 6K resolution. Quickly touching on the cameras, Apple does recommend you to add footage you record on this iPad to your Final Cut timeline, but please do not do this. It's not the worst sensor in the world, but the rear camera should really only be used in a pinch for things like scanning documents. The landscape front-facing camera, however, is fantastic for video calls since it does have center stage, so it follows you around the room if you move. Speakers and mic-wise, these are also pretty solid. It's not quad speakers like the iPad Pro, but it surprisingly gets close with 2 less speakers, and because it's a stereo pair, it's great for watching movies with, and mics have also never disappointed me with calls, and here's a sample for you guys. So this is a mic test on the M3 iPad Air. I'm behind the camera, of course, and it sounds pretty good. It should sound pretty good. It usually does sound pretty good on Discord when I'm talking to my friends, so yeah. Hopefully that translates on video as well. Touch ID is also reliable, and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi specs were not updated with the M3 Air, so just like the M2, it's solid in this aspect. Also, much like the M2 iPad Air, we get a base storage of 128 gigs and a max of 1 terabyte if you have overkill storage needs. But yes, as I've been reiterating many times, this is nothing new for the M3 model. This was already the case with the M2. And so ultimately, guys, I'm still going to point people towards the M2 and M1 iPad Air, since those offer 98% of the same experience for much less. The M1, you can argue, does not support Apple Pencil Pro or does not have 128 gigs of storage as standards, but the M2 Air is spec for spec the same apart from the chipset, and the M2 still has no issues running very resource-heavy apps like LumaFusion and GarageBand. The M2 Air is often on sale for around $449, and I'm sure it's going to continue dropping as retailers clear existing stock, and as for the M1 Air, that has come down to $349 refurbished, and ultimately offers the same core experience for much less. I'll leave links below. And also, if you don't think you need the advantages of the M series chipset in the first place, the base iPad is a great option as well. Yes, it has a worse screen and it's less powerful, but the core experience is similar on both iPads. And if your tablet usage consists of browsing the web and watching TV shows and movies, then yeah, just save your money and get the A16 iPads. As a student, you could maybe justify the Air for the better panel that's laminated and Apple Pencil Pro support, but honestly I would try out these iPads in person first because my brother has been using an older iPad 9th generation for school and has never once complained about the Apple Pencil experience, and so if you're someone who doesn't notice a difference, you should save your money and get the base iPad. But if you do care about a better display, then you should still not get the M3 iPad Air, you should buy the M2 or the M1. So yes, ultimately it depends, but either way I'll leave links for the A16 iPad as well. Now FYI, I only reviewed the smaller $599 model, but the bigger size is very similar for the most part. It has a slightly brighter panel, but that's about it. And if you're looking to buy the new 13-inch iPad Air, I would point you towards the older M2 model, or even the iPad Pro 12.9-inch with the M1, because that's available for less and has mini LED and quad speakers, which makes up for the older chipset. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.